When I was 15, still in school, me and 4 friends opened up a sweet shop. So today I want to go over what that taught me about business and how it's applicable to info and what I do now. So first I'll go over like the entire story of what it is that we actually did and how we had a sweet shop at 15. And then I'll obviously go over the 3 lessons that it taught me, right? So starting out, there was a massive Calypso craze, which is Calypso, for those of you that don't know, it's just like a glass bottle drink. I'm pretty sure it's American. It came over to the UK and it was like prime, right? Everybody wanted it and they were paying extortionate amounts in the like local corner shops for it. So we thought we were going to try to get our hands on it and sell it at school, right? Like one of my friends who was already doing that, and we thought, oh, well, I'll just start doing it. We'll all just buy loads together, pool our money and buy loads and sell it all, right? Obviously that fucking shit was scarce as fuck. That's probably why it was being sold so high. We didn't know that. So we got the idea to then start selling sweets, right? So we found an online wholesaler and we were going to do it after school and we were going to do it in sweet boxes. So it was going to be 100 grams for £1, but you get like a 500 gram box for £5, obviously plus delivery, because we were going to deliver it as well, right? So at first we were going to just like one of the guys, so it was 4 of us, we all chipped in £30, that's £120 in total. And one of us was going to do deliveries, but we ended up actually getting the barber to do deliveries for us. We paid him £20 for the start of the night and then £1.50 for every delivery he did. But even from the sweets, so it first started off with we were just going to do Calypsos, and then it switched to sweets, then it evolved and we started even selling waffles, and we started trying to make our own cookie dough, and we even bought a cake from Tesco for like £3, cut it into slices, and then sold each slice individually for £3. So we got all this stuff together and we were going to launch on a Friday, and I'll put photos on the screen of like the different parts. So for example, like the launch day, we had a post on Instagram for it and everything. It was full on like a launch. Like we built up hype, we set up a giveaway, and we were running like a story sequence pretty much. We got everyone to share it for the giveaway. Obviously we faked the giveaway. I mean, I feel like everyone, especially at like 15 years old, if you ever tried to run a business, you probably faked a giveaway at some point. And it's not something I would do now. Especially with like info and working with clients, because credibility is a massive thing. But back then, of course, right, who hasn't done that? So yeah, so we launched, we were running it out of Mason's mum's kitchen originally, then we moved to Luke's for a bit, then we set up a full base in Mason's grandma's, right? Every penny we made, we reinvested it back into the business to buy more sweets, better crepe makers, better waffle makers, right? At first, we literally started off with just store-bought waffles that we were putting in the toaster, taking them out, putting chocolate sauce in it, and then selling them. So it evolved to us actually buying our own waffle maker, making the waffles, making the product better, and charging more for them. So, I mean, at first we thought we were doing great, and as far as we were concerned, we were making a decent amount of money. Obviously it was all getting reinvested back in and we weren't spending any of it, right? So we didn't touch a single penny from it at all. And an issue I still have to this day, to be fair, which I'm trying to work on, is that I move like 100 miles an hour, and I always think 100 steps down the road instead of just taking that first step, which is what we did then, right? So the money that we were getting, we were reinvesting it back into the wrong things by buying new crepe makers, new waffle makers and whatever. And then we decided that we wanted to scale up and get a shop, which is insane for 15-year-olds to be looking into buying a shop, right? Obviously it's illegal as well. It's not legal for 15-year-olds to like have a lease on a shop, but that didn't stop us. We still looked and we actually found one. So again, I'll put the photos on the screen of when we were painting it and we did it all out ourselves. That was £300 a month, and we had to get somebody else to put their name down on the lease because obviously we weren't old enough to do it ourselves, right? Obviously Mason's grandma at the time, so we were running it out of her kitchen for the longest amount of time. She probably wanted to get us out of there into the shop. She actually gave us she had a credit card, a spare credit card that had £1,000 on it, which was insane to me because we'd spent it all doing up the shop. And I remember laying awake some nights thinking, fucking hell, I'm like £1,000 in debt. Like to me, I've never seen £1,000 at that time, right? So yeah, I was stressing. I was still in school and everything like that. And obviously I didn't even know how credit cards work and debt work. So I thought if this credit card didn't get paid off, we'd be fucked. All right, but anyway, we had a launch date for the shop. So we set that up and set everything up. We posted again Instagram story sequences and posts, and then launched. That same day we launched the shop and opened the shop, we actually had a market on the street the same day. So we launched the same day as the market was on, and we actually made back the rent money same day and paid off a big chunk of the credit card same day. Man, at this point we thought we were fucking balling, right? Because that's insane, really, especially like for someone who, like the only other businesses I've done before this is like reselling things in school and like flipping vape liquids and things like that, right? So to actually like have a shop, man, I thought I was on top of the world, right? even though we weren't making any money, we weren't taking any money home. It was pretty much all for show. But yeah, that's kind of like the entire story of the shop. Then we kind of, again, this problem of us investing our money into the wrong things. So we weren't investing enough money into like sweet stock and buying more sweet stock, but instead we were buying like new waffle makers like bubble waffles and things like that, and expanding the menu and putting too many things on the menu, having too much of a broad approach when we should have been niching down to the 3 main products that we're selling and making them better, which was the sweets, the cookie doughs and the crepes. Like waffles didn't really sell too much at the time, right? So that's one of the lessons I learned, which isn't the 3 that I'm going to go over, but a little honorable mention for you there, right? You need to niche down. That's not something we did. We tried to appeal to everybody and try to sell every single product. As well, somebody else then opened a shop in the same area as us, so now we had competition, which we were like obviously competing with them, and as kids, they had a lot more capital to invest and they had a better shop with a better location and stuff. And then the third reason, the main reason why it failed, is because the first way we grew it, we were talking through word of mouth. It was all word of mouth. It was all getting people to share the Instagram and doing giveaways and things like that. But that doesn't last forever, and it runs down, and we weren't doing any sort of marketing. We didn't know what marketing was. So essentially, the main reason it didn't fail was a lack of an experience. We didn't really know what we were doing. I remember we were going to try and get on Just Eat, but we didn't have enough money to pay the initial setup fee of £300, so we couldn't get on Just Eat. Now, if we got on Just Eat, that probably would have been really good. And if we hadn't have spent money on the wrong things and we spent money on the right thing, which would have been Just Eat, we probably would still be running that business to the day. But, you know what I mean? That's not how things work, right? And obviously, like spoiler alert, it didn't work out, but obviously I took lessons from that, learned them, applied to what I'm doing now, and here we are. So the first lesson that I kind of learned from this is that content and leverage is key, right? At the time, TikTok wasn't a thing, and Instagram Reels weren't a thing. So we couldn't really post content in that sort of way, but we probably wouldn't have anyway, because I would have been too shy to get behind the camera. It's only in recent times I've actually started doing it. I also would have probably been like afraid that people would have thought about it a certain way, but when I look back, the first day that we opened, we were getting prank called by our friends, and our friends like were feeling a certain way, must have been quite salty about it, because we stopped hanging around with them and we started doing this business literally every day after school. So when I look back, posting content shouldn't have been an issue for me, because what I was afraid of getting like the piss taken out of me was already happening. So do you know what I mean? It can't happen worse, right? But where I'm going with this is that if we posted content and leveraged our situation, which was our story, like you should be doing with your offer, it would have boomed. It would have done so much well. Imagine the leverage we had of being 15-year-old shop owners. It would have been crazy. The amount of people that would have wanted to support just for that reason would have been insane, right? And that's what you should be doing with your offer. Anything that you think that you're doing in your life should be documented, and you need to be raw, authentic, and you need to leverage anything you have. So that can mean your entire story, exactly how you got to where you are, anything like this, and you need to tell people about it. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. I remember when I was setting for an offer, it was just a SMMA offer, right? And there's tons of SMMA coaches, you probably know that. And I was setting someone, he was also from the UK, and the coach was from a northern part of the UK, just in a little town, right? And that is the reason why this person decided to buy from him, because he related to that. So that's why you need to leverage your story, because there's so many people out there who probably relate to you, and if they see themselves in you, they're way more likely to buy your product. Lesson number 2 is that you should never expand to scale, you should always scale to expand. So that's probably the biggest reason why we failed, is because we expanded in the hopes that that would help us scale. So we thought that if we got that shop, that would have helped us increase our revenue and increase and make way more money because of the foot traffic and because, well, we had a shop, right? A shop equals money. That's kind of how we've seen it. And a lot of people are doing the same sort of thing with their info offer, right? They're hiring to scale instead of, obviously in our case it was expanding to scale, but they're hiring to scale, right? So you might be a small creator or coach with not that many followers, but you have people that want to buy your offer. So you're going to do a launch, and on your first launch you hire setters, closers and a sales manager. You do not need that, right? You're just setting yourself up for failure. What you should be doing for your first launch, especially if you're a small creator, is if you're working with an operator, they'll do the setting and you do the closing. Your close rate will never be as high when you're doing the closing, sorry. Because no one knows more about the offer than you, and the sales call will be way more intimate with you, right? Because that's essentially their first taste of what the offer's actually like. And the setter, obviously, being the operator, is great because they want the success too, because they get paid on the rev share, right? So with us, we got the shop, we expanded in the hopes that we would scale, when we should have really stayed in Mason's grandma's kitchen, even though she probably wanted us to leave, because we should have built up a better base first. We should have done an extra launch before we scaled, right? We should have had that extra experience. And that's exactly what you should be doing with your offer. The third point is that systems are always going to beat hustle, right? We thought if we got the shop, we just worked hard every single day, that we would succeed, right? But you can't make waffles and you can't make sweet boxes if you've got no one to sell them to, right? We were focusing too much on the product and the delivery that we never actually focused on the sales systems and the marketing, right? Which is exactly what you should be doing. Posting one Instagram post doesn't count. That's all we were doing and it didn't work, right? You need to be consistently posting content and nurturing people, right? So for us, we could have had automations in place where as soon as you buy from us, you get a text. And so when you order, essentially you have to leave your phone number, right? So as soon as they order, we could have sent them out an automated text asking them for a review, which would have increased our Google reviews, so then when people search for our shop or search for desserts in the area, we would have came up much higher. Or you do the same for Instagram reviews, so your Instagram page is getting more padded out, right? Or we could, every time that they order, we could have sent them a text out saying, if you share us, you get 5% off your next order. And now we're growing more and more, right? These systems would have helped us grow a lot more than worrying about what chocolate we were using for the chocolate sauce, right? And a lot of you guys are doing the same thing with your offer. You're just focusing on trying to make the offer as best as it can possibly be so that you can get as many people in, but then you're not actually worried about how you're going to get them to your offer or how you're going to make your offer known. And that's one of the other main points, right? Kind of another honorable mention as well is that, like, if you're ever thinking with your offer, like, oh, I don't want to post this piece of content, I don't want to post that piece of content like I mentioned before, and that stops you, you may as well just stop now, because everybody else that's doing it is going to outperform you 10 times. And if you're listening to what other people think, then you're also just going to end up just like them, right? I remember when we were in school and we were talking to our head of year about the business, she was really happy for us and she was constantly asking us questions about it. She was really interested, right? And I remember we were talking to her in the corridor one day and the head teacher walked past and she said to the head teacher, oh, have you seen what these kids are doing? It's really good, it's really great, isn't it? And we showed her the Instagram and stuff like that. And I remember the first thing that she fucking said to us was, I hope that isn't taking time away from your schoolwork. How fucking crazy is that? We were already on a path to do better than we would have in school because we could have had a successful business by the time we even left school. But her concern was us doing better in school because that's the normal path. And it just shows that if we were to listen to her and cut time out of the shop and put time into schoolwork, then, I mean, what would have been the fucking point, right? It's just stupid. You do not want to listen to people. So I'm glad that that happened to me because it taught me from a very young age that you shouldn't listen to people who don't have what you want. Because you don't, unless you want what they have, which nobody fucking does. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I learned about having a sweet shop at 15 and what it's taught me about what I do now and how it's applicable to info. And the main kind of takeaway from it is, if you have an idea of something you want to try, just fucking try it, because even if it doesn't work out, you'll probably learn things from it that you can use in the future, right? But yeah, that's kind of it. That's the whole video.